The darkness of space had never felt so alive. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge of the Terran dreadnought Prometheus, her eyes fixed on the tactical display that painted a picture of absolute horror. 3,000 enemy ships had just emerged from fold space at the edge of the solar system. The Cathari Legion had arrived, and they had come to end humanity forever. For 600 years, the Cathari had conquered every species they encountered. They called themselves the Legion because they moved as one mind, one purpose. Their hive consciousness made them perfect soldiers. No fear, no hesitation, no mercy. They had consumed 47 civilizations and added their resources to the endless war machine. Now they had set their countless eyes upon Earth. Chen Wei had studied every record of Cathari battles. She had watched footage of entire planetary defense fleets being torn apart in minutes. She had read the final transmissions of dying worlds. She knew what humanity faced. But she also knew something the Cathari did not understand. Humans were not like other species. Humans had spent their entire existence fighting themselves. War was written into their blood and bone. The communications officer turned from his station. His face was pale, but his voice remained steady. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Legion command vessel. They wish to speak with you." Chen Wei nodded slowly. "Put them through." The main display flickered and changed. A Cathari overmind appeared on screen. Its body was massive, covered in chitinous armor that gleamed like oil on water. 6 eyes arranged in a circle around its face burned with cold intelligence. When it spoke, its voice was the sound of 1,000 whispers merged into one. "You are the leader of this system's defenders. We have observed your species for many cycles. You are primitive. Your technology is inferior. Your numbers are small. The Legion offers you a choice. Surrender now, and your people will be absorbed quickly. There will be minimal suffering. Resist, and we will burn your world to ash and consume the ashes." Chen Wei stepped closer to the screen. Her jaw was set, and her eyes were hard as iron. She spoke clearly so every member of her crew could hear. "I am Admiral Chen Wei of the Terran Imperial Fleet. Behind me stand 427 warships. On Earth stand 8 billion human beings who will never kneel to you. We have heard stories of your conquests. We know you have never lost a war, but you have never fought humanity before. Today your record ends." The overmind made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your courage is amusing but meaningless. We have crushed species far more advanced than yours. What makes you believe you can succeed where they failed?" Chen Wei allowed herself a small smile. "Because we are human, and humans do not know how to give up." She cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. "Commander Harris, signal the fleet. All ships to battle stations. Formation Omega. Today we show these creatures what humanity is made of." The Terran Imperial Fleet had been built over 2 centuries of preparation. When humanity first detected signs of the Cathari Legion moving through the galaxy, they had put aside their differences. Every nation contributed. Every resource was devoted to a single purpose: survival. The result was the most powerful military force humanity had ever created. The Prometheus led the formation. Behind it came the carrier groups, each one carrying 5,000 fighter craft. The heavy cruisers formed defensive lines. The destroyer squadrons spread out to cover the flanks. And hidden among the asteroid belt were the siege platforms, massive weapon stations that humanity had never revealed to anyone. The Cathari Legion began their advance. Their ships moved in perfect synchronization, guided by the collective will of the hive mind. They had fought 100 battles this way. Their coordination was flawless. Their strategy was proven. They expected this battle to end like all the others. They did not understand that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 200 years. Admiral Chen Wei watched the enemy fleet approach. Her heart was beating fast, but her mind was clear and focused. She had trained her entire life for this day. Every officer in the fleet had. They knew the stakes, they knew the odds, and they knew what they had to do. Fire, she commanded. The siege platforms activated first. Hidden among the asteroids, they unleashed weapons that humanity had kept secret from the galaxy. Antimatter cannons that could punch through any shield. Gravitic distortion beams that crushed ships like aluminum cans. Plasma lances that burned hotter than the surface of the sun. The first volley caught the Legion completely by surprise. 30 enemy ships vanished in the first second. Another 50 in the next. The perfect formation of the Cathari fleet shattered as they tried to identify and respond to this unexpected threat. For the first time in 600 years, the Legion was confused. Chen Wei pressed her advantage. All carriers launch fighters. Cruiser groups advance and engage. Destroyers target their command vessels. Show them no mercy because they will show us none. The space between the fleets became a storm of fire and death. Human fighters swarmed around Cathari cruisers, too small and fast for the enemy weapons to track. They struck at weapon systems and engine ports, weakening the larger ships for the killing blows from the heavy cruisers that followed. The Cathari adapted quickly. Their hive mind allowed them to share information instantly. They began to counter human tactics, predicting movements and concentrating fire. Human ships started to die. The destroyer Valiant was the first to fall, its hull pierced by a dozen energy beams. The cruiser Ironclad followed moments later, torn apart by a coordinated missile strike. But humanity did not break. They did not run. They pressed forward into the heart of the enemy fleet with a fury that stunned the Cathari. This was something the Legion had never seen before. Other species fought to survive. Humans fought to win. There was a difference. Commander Harris reported from his station. "Admiral, we have lost 47 ships. Enemy casualties estimated at 430. They are attempting to regroup around their command vessels." "Then we hit them there," Chen Wei replied. "Signal the Prometheus battle group. We are going in." The dreadnought plunged into the center of the Cathari formation. Its shields flared under constant bombardment but held. Its weapons fired in all directions, each shot guided by the most advanced targeting systems humanity had ever built. Enemy ships died with every passing second. The Overmind watched from its command vessel as something impossible happened. The Legion was losing. For the first time in recorded history, the Hive was being pushed back. It could feel the deaths of thousands of its children. It could sense the confusion spreading through the collective consciousness. This was not supposed to happen. These primitive creatures were supposed to die. It issued new orders. Focus all fire on the human flagship. Destroy their leader, and the others will break. 200 Cathari ships turned their weapons toward the Prometheus. The dreadnought's shields began to fail under the concentrated assault. Fires broke out across multiple decks. Hull breaches vented atmosphere into space. But the crew kept fighting. They sealed damaged sections and rerouted power. They pushed their reactor beyond safe limits. They refused to die. Admiral Chen Wei gripped her command chair as the bridge shook from another impact. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. She could hear alarms screaming throughout the ship. She knew they could not survive much longer. But she also knew they did not need to. "Signal the reserve fleet," she ordered. "Execute Operation Hammer." From the dark side of Mars, hidden for 2 decades, 300 fresh warships emerged. They had been humanity's final secret. A second fleet, fully crewed and armed, waiting for exactly this moment. They struck the Cathari from behind with overwhelming force. The Legion fleet was caught between 2 human forces. Their perfect coordination collapsed into chaos. Ships crashed into each other as they tried to turn and face the new threat. The hive mind screamed with confusion and fear. This was wrong. This was impossible. Primitive species did not plan like this. They did not sacrifice and wait and strike with such precision. But humans did. Humans had been perfecting the art of war for 10,000 years. They had fought each other across continents and oceans. They had developed every possible strategy and tactic. They had learned to be patient and ruthless and brave. The Cathari had conquered species that fought to live. Humans fought to destroy their enemies completely. The battle lasted 4 more hours. By the end, only 300 Cathari ships remained. They tried to flee, to fold space and escape, but the human fleet pursued them relentlessly. Not one enemy vessel was allowed to escape. Not one survivor was left to warn the rest of the Legion. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the scarred bridge of the Prometheus and watched the last enemy ship die. Around her, the crew was silent. They were exhausted and wounded and grieving for the friends they had lost. But they were alive, and humanity was safe. The communications officer spoke softly. "Admiral, Earth is requesting a status report." Chen Wei took a deep breath. "Tell them the Legion is destroyed. Tell them we won. Tell them that humanity still stands and we always will." On Earth, 8 billion people watched the news spread across every screen. The impossible had happened. Humanity had faced the greatest threat in galactic history and emerged victorious. They had proven that no matter how powerful the enemy, no matter how hopeless the odds, humans would never stop fighting. The Cathari Overmind sent one final message before its ship was destroyed. It asked a simple question. "How did you do this? How did you defeat us?" Admiral Chen Wei answered for all of humanity. "Because we are human. We were born in struggle. We were raised in conflict. We have fought for every step of our existence. You came here thinking we were prey. You learned too late that we are predators. Earth is our home. And we will burn the galaxy down before we let anyone take it from us." The stars had watched countless civilizations rise and fall. They had seen empires crumble and species vanish. But on this day, they witnessed something new. A young species, violent and stubborn and impossibly brave, had stood against the darkness and won. The Terran Imperial fleet had stopped the Legion cold. And the galaxy would never forget what humanity was capable of. Chen Wei looked out at the stars and smiled. They had won this battle, but she knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the vast darkness, more enemies waited. More threats would come, but humanity would be ready. They would always be ready, because that was what humans did. They fought. They survived. They conquered. The Legion had marched on Earth. The Imperial fleet had stopped them cold. And now the whole galaxy knew that humanity was a force to be feared.